Good afternoon. I am Andrea Chisholm with the Midday News. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. A reminder as well that you can download our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1 followed by the words Spot and Media. Despite the high murder figures since the start of the year, Prime Minister Andrew Holness is maintaining that the government is not losing the battle against crime. Mr. Holness was speaking at a press conference at Jamaica House a short while ago. He says his administration is putting in the effort and results will be achieved over time. Mr. Holness continued to defend the zones of special operations in Mount Salem. Meanwhile, the co-chairman of the Economic Program Oversight Committee, Keith Duncan, is calling for members of the government to stop politicizing crime. Mr. Duncan noted that all stakeholders should unite to fight against crime and argued that a lack of investment in vulnerable communities contribute to the problem. He was speaking at a recent awards function for the Jamaica University College Alumni Association.
It's a disease that occurs because we have failed to invest in our people. We have failed to really invest in our garrison communities, in our inner city communities, and really empower our people, not only mentally, but also with the resources so that they can achieve their own economic empowerment.
Mr. Duncan commended the social intervention component of the zones of special operations, saying it's a critical part of the crime-fighting strategy. A man labeled by the St. Ann police as a serial rapist is now behind bars. He was captured in St. Mary. The man, said to be in his late 30s, has been on the run for several weeks, escaping several police dragnets. Head of operations in St. Ann, Deputy Superintendent Ryan Gale, said the man has been charged with several sexual offenses in St. Ann and St. Mary and was positively identified in at least 2 identification parades. He is also scheduled to face more identification parades. 31 knitted bags with 211 packages of compressed ganja was found in an open lot in White House, Westmoreland last night. TVJ News understands that between 9:30 and 11:30, detectives from the Narcotics Division were conducting operations in the parish when 2 houses and an open lot were searched and the ganja found. The drugs weighed 757 pounds and has a street value of over 3 million Jamaican dollars. Investigations have revealed that the drugs were to be shipped as part of the Guns for Drugs trade. There's a question this afternoon about the willingness of the Jamaica Public Service to fix non-functional streetlights since the government owes millions for electricity. Chairman of the Association of Local Government Associations of Jamaica, C.N. Barneswell, raised the question at the Municipal Corporation meeting in Clarendon.
From observation, it appears that the Jamaica Public Service repair team is reluctant to have these lights repaired, and it could be because of the enormous bill which is still outstanding to them. The minister didn't say categorically what it is, but I know the last administration was somewhere close to $4 billion, and I think that has somehow increased. So with that amount being outstanding to Jamaica Public Service, I don't think they're really happy to go about and repair these lights because they're in business to make money. And if street lights is one of the products in which they make money from, I don't think anybody would really want to keep doing the repair works knowing that the customer or whomever they are providing the service for is not paying for it.
In the meantime, he has called for the urgent replacement of energy-efficient streetlights.
Sodium bulbs with LED are started in St. Andrew, section of St. Andrew, and in particular Portmore, I think, section of St. James. And in Clarendon, we are asking, because this is something keep coming up our monthly meeting, we are asking how soon Clarendon will experience the replacement of the high-pressure sodium bulbs with LED, because the communities which are high consumed communities, such as Mineralites, Longville Park, and section of Mapen, will benefit tremendously in terms of cost.
3 police officers attached to the Marine Division met in an accident this morning in St. Anne's Bay. Reports are that the officers were traveling from Montego Bay to Kingston, and upon reaching a section of the St. Anne's Bay roundabout, the police vehicle hit an embankment and overturned. The injured police officers were taken to hospital where they were treated. A Jamaican woman is expected to be deported today after losing her bid to remain in Canada. 38-year-old Beverly Braham is married to a Canadian citizen and has a 4-month-old son who was born in the country. She went to Canada in 2012 on a 6-month visa but overstayed. She said she and her son were held in detention for 3 days earlier this month by the Canada Border Services Agency, CBSA. Her supporters, including the Black Lives Matter movement, held a demonstration to protest her detention and deportation on Tuesday. Mrs. Braham has argued that leaving the country would be detrimental to her health as she was undergoing treatment for a blood clot in her lungs. However, the CBSA noted that Mrs. Braham has been treated for her condition and air travel at this time would not be detrimental to her condition. In addition, the border agency said her infant son, who will require surgery in the near future, would receive all the necessary medical care which is available to all Canadians. Returning residents and other individuals wishing to carry their pets as companion with them to Jamaica from regulated countries such as the United States and the United Kingdom can now travel with them. The Agriculture Minister has signed off on the Animal Diseases Importation Control Amendment Regulation 2017. Carl Samuda stated in a press release yesterday that this would facilitate the international movement of dogs and cats as it protect Jamaicans against the risks that may arise from exotic animal diseases. He also stated that one of the major benefits of this amendment is to bring Jamaica closer to compliance with requirements relating to the international movement of companion. Chairman of the St. Mary Development and Disaster Company, Bobby Pottinger, is welcoming plans to rehabilitate the Junction Main Road between rural St. Andrew and St. Mary. Mr. Pottinger believes that the junction corridor has deteriorated as a result of the new highway that runs from Ocho Rios to Kingston. He says large vehicles are using the road as a means of escaping the toll. Mr. Pottinger says with the successful rehabilitation of the junction corridor, more production would come out of Portland and St. Mary.
Both St. Mary and Portland are agricultural parishes, and it would be a great ease to all the informal traders who bring in coconuts and other crops to get it into Kingston at a reasonable time.
He welcomes the move. He says there should be adequate research on the roadway before rehabilitation begins.
The entire Wagwater Basin needs attention. We have been mining without due regulations on the Wagwater, and it has deepened the gorge to such an extent that it has caused part of the road to fall into the river because all the protection in the river is washed away. And so we will have to advise government as to what it was like with these walls and to see that it is properly put back and protection is done within the river.
And we now have images of that story we told you about earlier at the Prime Minister's press conference. He stated that despite the high murder figures since the start of the year, he's maintaining that the government is not losing the battle against crime.
We have taken a very strategic approach to fighting crime. People obviously would want to see immediate results. The measures that could bring immediate results could also cause immediate problems. And we have learned that lesson already, and we are not going back to those measures. We're going to focus on building public trust, building the confidence of the security forces that they can apply modern policing methods that respect the rights of the citizens.
Mr. Holness also defended the zones of special operations in Mount Salem, St. James.
The police have to make a human resource allocation decision. And what the zones do, it forces them to place their manpower where the problems are. It also forces them to make long-term commitments to the problems.
The Nurses Association of Jamaica, NAJ, is supporting extended opening hours for more clinics to deal with non-emergency cases. This is part of efforts to reduce the waiting time at hospitals. However, the organization says there is an urgent need for resources. NAJ President Janet Korfar said nurses are willing to work, but there's not enough equipment and medical supplies at facilities. She was responding to an announcement by Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton last week that the opening hours at 4 clinics would be extended. Clinics now close at 4:30 in the afternoon, but Dr. Tufton says that time will change to either 8:30 or 10 o'clock, depending on the location. Agriculture Minister Carl Samuda says steps are being taken to prevent a major rice shortage in Jamaica. General Manager of Jamaica Rice Mills, Derek Nemhard, last week said the shortage of the commodity on the local market should be eased before next month. TVJ News sought answers from the Agriculture Minister.
There's no crisis at the moment, but I just heard about something to do with a looming shortage. But there is no evidence yet that there is a crisis. I haven't had a chance to consult. Just for 5 minutes it was brought to my attention. What I am sure of is that there isn't a crisis at the moment, but we have to take engage preventative measures to prevent anything like that occurring.
The St. Mary Technical High School has received a well-refurbished chemistry and integrated science lab. The lab was rehabilitated by the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology in collaboration with Petrojam.
It's part of a general thrust of the government to ensure that development is not concentrated in only sections of this island of ours. We believe that connectivity, the build out of a knowledge-based digital society is critical and must ensure that we incorporate all of Jamaica as we move forward to prosperity.
Dr. Wheatley said that the initiative is part of the government's thrust to lay the foundation for students doing the sciences. He urged the students to utilize the lab effectively to achieve their goals. In news overseas, British police have arrested a 17-year-old in connection with last week's attack on the London Underground at the Parsons Green station, bringing the number held to 6. The teen was taken into custody after detectives executed a warrant at an address in South London early on Thursday. Search operations were continuing on Thursday at 5 properties, including the address where the teen was arrested overnight. An improvised bomb detonated on a busy commuter train last Friday during the morning rush hour, injuring 30 people, and it appears to have been partially detonated. And we go now to news in sports. 4 days after being voted in as Jamaica Football Federation President, Michael Ricketts is trying to see how he can make good on one election of one of his pre-election commitments. That's trying to reduce the Federation's debt. We now have more in this report.
The over $265 million debt is one of the main areas of concern for new JFF President Michael Ricketts, who on Wednesday took steps to try to address that issue by meeting with the Jamaica Olympic Association.
The treasurer and I have met, and we are working out some ways of addressing this. We actually owe to the government for statutory deductions $178 million of the 365. Now we must try and engage the respective ministry or ministries in an effort to work out some kind of a repayment plan, or maybe a write-off if that's on the card.
So how will the Jamaica Olympic Association help in this regard?
I am sure that there are developmental costs. Rather than burden them with some of those development costs, the JO will look to see if we can assist in that regard, because we are far more interested in development. Yes, debt servicing and debt repayment is critical to the wheel of an organization, But certainly in terms of our expertise, we will be at the negotiating table at the invitation of the GFF to see how best we can work with third parties, third-party creditors, to see if we can get repayment plan and get GFF on a critical path.
And Ricketts says there is a plan to write off the other portion of the debt.
We are hopeful and we'll make an announcement very soon. We're trying to get some practice games that can earn us some cash. Well, this one that will be announced soon is in fact overseas. We want, and most times we do not make money from local games, but at the same time we must try to re-establish the relationship with our footballing people, and we therefore must find a way to have local games.
Meanwhile, JOA President Christopher Samuda says he also wants to see the national football team in the Olympics.
And therefore we are looking forward to sitting down on a continual basis with the GFF, not only to look in terms of their organizational structure to see how best it can facilitate their development goals, but also to look in terms of our own landmark, which is the Olympics. We want football in the Olympics, and therefore we'll be working assiduously to ensure that that happens.
Jordan Fort, TVJ Sports.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the News, Sports and Production teams, good afternoon.